Oh, again.
Yeah.
Should have gone. Did oh, did you?
I think you just need to shrink that down, right?
Yeah. All righty, so we're good.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Fourth, June 4th at 4 o'clock. We do have a forum. We would like to. No. Okay. We'll be happy. Second, awesome. I seconded, all in favor? Aye. Okay, at this time, it's visitor communication. We have two, we have Scott and Mel. That would like to, they both would like to speak about dark sky. If you don't mind.
Yes.
Hobbling over to the speaker, and then you just hit the little red or the little button, you gotta hold it down for about a second. There you go.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott. I'm the Executive Director for Sisters. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of plant the seed regarding dark sky here in Sisters. As you know, the city was certified as a dark sky community back in January. And we're one of two cities in the entire state of Oregon, I think one of 56 now internationally with that designation. So it's a pretty unique thing, a pretty big point of difference for the community. And we have a small working committee within the city that Scott has helped us work through the application process, but we've kind of come to the point of what's next for dark sky. We have a certification, that's great, stamp of approval, but how do we pay that certification off? And we've been talking about a lot of different things regarding education and how it can play into tourism promotion and things like that. But then experience-wise is kind of the question of where to go. And one of the ideas we've been kicking around is really just a plan to see if there really isn't any funding or firm details behind it. The idea of a dark sky park within the system and something that is kind of a low barrier entry level experience things for folks that might not be, you know, they don't have the $5,000 equipment. They're not going to go hike into the Oregon outback where they're going to see the darkness from the dark skies, but something in Sisters that is accessible and low barrier that we can provide to our residents, our guests, and things like that. What a dark sky park means is kind of up for discussion. You know, it's a theming of a park, putting in some infrastructure that might be as simple as platforms to set up telescopes on, making sure that there's power between powers, there's a facility that has restrooms nearby, that parking. One idea that we floated, there was a program through Travel Oregon called Recreation Ready, and it was designed to help communities with early phase ideas to turn them into a real project. And we were just at the finish line, but we didn't make the final cut of the total of 4 projects statewide. And our proposal was kind of working through the initial phases of a dark sky park and what that would look like. And we had talked with the city staff and had kind of a commitment for them to sit at the table to explore the options. No commitments on dedicating land or anything like that, but a piece of property that rose to the top of Clemens Park. And we know that there's a neighborhood around there and that there's, you know, some challenge there, but the infrastructure is there, the parking, it has restrooms, it's relatively flat, it's open, there's no big trees around there. That could be something that could be converted into a dark sky park. And theming elements would be something like interpretive panels to discuss celestial content, the history, the native story behind dark skies, and then maybe a little bit of infrastructure. So there's a lot of work to do, but I just wanted to kind of plant that seed, knowing that we still have discussions with city staff and looking at funding, what it all means in terms of design. But just wanted to get that ball rolling a little bit from the committee. And the other thing, while I have real quick, is we're also interested in helping the city kind of develop some signage around some of the parks. When we start to discuss wayfinding, some of the signage at Creekside or other places a little outdated. And then what opportunities do we have at Gateway to provide visitors with resources when they arrive and getting to our website and just that information to kind of move them around. So feedback, hopefully to talk more about that sometime, but just wanted to plant the seed today. So I appreciate a couple minutes of your time and hopefully we'll bring something back for you to look at some point in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
Sir.
If I want to send you a couple of wayfinding examples, like Science, we had a place like that.
Your company gold email is just scotth@exploresisters.com. Cool.
Scott, are you familiar with the route out at the Blackview Ranch that's kind of into that too?
Like the organizers of like the stargazing stuff. Star shining.
I know there's been some effort when groups get together on that.
Yeah, I know at one point, Blackview was interested in potential certification as well. There's an organization called Starshine that's been doing organized stargazing, both private and more public events. They have recently be partnered with them this year to bring 4 or 5 stargazing tours into Sisters, partnering with the high school. So we know there's interest in the work. It's kind of how we organize it and make it more accessible for the visitors, but it's also how do we get the like DIY, you don't need an organized tour, like we have a facility where you can go and try and do this yourself. So that's kind of the idea behind the park.
Great.
Yes.
Laura, thank you, first of all, for your work with this, which is very exciting community. Are you aware of any other cities that have dark side gardens?
This is kind of a new territory, you know, on the state level, led by Travel Oregon, also led by Dark Sky Oregon. We're trying to answer the question of what's next for communities that are able to obtain this designation. The only other community that has the designation is Antelope. Population is 38 people, something like that. So a little bit different there than it is here. We're probably one of the most well-appointed communities that can achieve dark sky status just because it is difficult, just with light pollution and things like that. So I think the nice thing about Oregon is that we like to share ideas within our industry. And so it's not like we're going to try to do this in a vacuum on our own. We'll be learning from ideas from the state, local, the dark sky community that, you know, has people that have been doing this their entire life, local astronomers, which I have not. So I want to hear from those folks of what would make this easy and accessible for people.
And then just to clarify, what you're looking for is a designation to an existing park, but not necessarily creation. Park.
Not a new park. I mean, I think it would be easier to retrofit kind of an existing park that had that infrastructure. If we were looking at, you know, a bare parcel where we're having to put restrooms in and parking and all these other things, that becomes a little less manageable. So it's really kind of more of a theming and maybe a little bit of infrastructure that would be critical to the activity. But hopefully we have something in the current inventory that could accommodate that type of activity. Again, we haven't really defined what all those different amenities are. And I think there's some tours and grants that we could definitely seek from the state and through our region that would be very interested in this. Dark Sky is a high priority for Travel Oregon in terms of experience and marketing, things like that. Okay.
Thanks, Scott.
Luke.
Mel?
I'm Mel Bartels. I live on Lake Drive in Manhattan. I'm on the Dark Sky steering committee for this week. So with that great introduction, I'll just give a couple of examples where this has worked very successfully. Probably the highlight is College Hill in June. It was a neighborhood park that started as a location on top of the hill where people could share telescopes and where the neighborhood could come. Because as you know, Eugene's broken into the neighborhoods and they have their strong neighborhood park, Broken Park Association. Over time, it became this area that everyone knew to go to, and didn't really even need to do publicity or announcements. People just showed up. As an example, there's a recent lunar eclipse and over 1,000 people just showed up. It was on pause. So this is what they can come to. Now that was in the middle of the city, and you know, the light pollution in the city is a huge drawback. But you just change what you're going to look at. The moon is wonderful. If you've ever seen planets like Saturn through a telescope, you know, the fact that we do have dark skies here is really special and unique. And the number of neighbors and people who come to me and say, where can I see the dark sky? Well, how about your backyard? My backyard doesn't work. I have trees. So it's become pretty, you can really use a location here where people can just know to come. And the amenities that we need, we just need something hard for handicap. People can build themselves up to hiking. And where we can let some of our bigger, heavier boats, from the parking lot. And, I'll give one more example here too. I occasionally get emails from people around the country saying, we're coming to Sister, we like it here, we have families, and I want to go for Dark Skies. You heard you have a Dark Sky destination, where can I go? And so I'll suggest, the White Observatory or something, they go, no, we're staying in Sisters, I want a spot I can walk to. So I think there's a real need and a real desire and a real availability and some type of synergy where we can, look not only the local neighborhoods and people there, but also the people who are coming there and give them, an experience. But the one thing that we can do is just a location that we can point to and say, this is where we can go. That's it, thanks.
Thanks, no, appreciate it. Rayla?
Being a good 18557 Plain Drive. Sisters. And I'm also on the committee, and it's been really fun to see some excitement in the community around getting to see the stars and just appreciate the darkness. And so I think the request is just at first just designating a park as a location that people can go and watch the stars. And so Cliff Clement, I just had this vision, let me throw out my vision. We really wanted to see what you guys thought, if maybe you have an idea for a better place. But it's, aside from the lodge being next to it, the lodge puts out some quite a bit of light, but it's still dark enough to see the Milky Way from that part, which is, you can tell that's so exciting. And so the idea is maybe just have a theme that it's already, Cliff Clements Park is already an airplane there. And so my vision was like, oh, it's up in the sky. In the day, it's airplanes, it's the airport, and at night, maybe even a rocket ship that a kid could sit in. I don't know, I'm down the road, but also I had the thought of just some decoration on the sidewalk. You could see like some different constellations that people could, you know, like educational boards or educational artwork that people could just look at in the day, and then at night, simply a place to come view the stars, maybe eventually a telescope viewing spot that might, I think having visited, like really the infrastructure, maybe a little bit bigger cement pad for people to put their telescopes on if they wanted, but that'd be, it's the type of people that tend to do this are pretty mellow. It's low key, it's quiet, usually it's not, you're saying massive people for the eclipse, but generally it's just, you know, small handful of people that want a dark place to look at it, so that seemed like a really neat place that's just a little bit of a hole, and it's different, and so it would be a fun draw. Educational. Any questions?
The events that you hosted the school for Sarah Mason, about how many people show up? Is it more than the district club?
Yeah, so in the summer, it's super well advertised one, I mean, the last few years would be maybe 20 people come. Yeah, so it's not massive, it's just, you know, a handful of people would come, but usually it's smaller. 10, 15. This last one we did in April, there was, I don't know, 10 maybe, and then, but there, we are hosting, the Astronomy Club is hosting a dark sky kind of celebration event at the high school in July. And that will be publicized more, so I don't know how many, they're capping it at 50, so. You know, and the question is, would that be the place to hold events? I think that that's a question we could tackle, like maybe that's not the event place, maybe that's just the place that people can on their own do. And we do events at the high school or at Parks and Rec, that's more set up for that. But I think the goal is when people call, they're going to go to the stars, but kind of star park for whatever we want to call it. That's kind of what I see. I don't know that it's really appropriate to have a big event at that. Doesn't mean there are ways to do that. Other questions?
Thank
Thank Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That's that.
Yes, so it's a follow, when we get requests from community members for changes to parks. We typically meet with them, internally as a staff, just to kind of go over what the specifics of the request are, and just links and things of that nature. Then as you can look for, information, we like share with the parks board, and we also try it through the council and see what their position is on it. Whether this necessitates, neighborhood outreach, to what extent or if this is appropriate in this situation. So it's a process, but this is a starting point for people with the ideas on it. And so see what they can do. You'll definitely see it again if it goes forward to you. This is something you can look at an actual part.
Okay, approval of minutes, we have. Three meetings under the. Exhibit A, exhibit B, and exhibit C are all attached. Being with finding errors or changes. So something.
I'm not sure if the minutes of February 5th, March 5th, and April 2nd, 2025.
I say, all in favor?
Thank you.
Okay, presentation, none, that was a good one.
Let's move on.
Eight.
Okay, this again, Matt Martin, principal private agency, is going to give you an update on the request.
Well, that's fine. Yeah. I'm our principal planner. Be sisters. So. Being here to share my screen. This is not a presentation. We'll reserve that for your next meeting in August, where we provide the comprehensive details of what we've been working on. The Northwest Park Master Planning process. So this is just to give you a progress report on what we've been up to and also a chance to like the webpage and other resources that are available to at your leisure review what we do have available. But again, not really diving into the details. But with that said, I know that several of you in the room have participated throughout in one way or another. So I welcome any comments or observations you have. So, created a website for the project. Way to navigate it several ways, but easiest is to go to Active City Projects, then Land Use and Spotlight, Northwest Park Master Plan Project. Now, this is something that I've continued to create, develop, and update as recently as today to provide updates on our progress and add content and resources that have been created or available. So, as I mentioned at our previous meeting in April, we contracted with NV5 Consulting to provide consulting services for the development of the master plan. They have also, as part of their team, are working with Stephen Ames and Ruth Williamson. Maybe some familiar names if you were here for the Sisters Country visioning process. They provided the consulting services for the creation of the vision. So some local resources that were part of the team providing the outreach service. So we were making progress and worked our way through tasks 1, 2, and 3, including the existing conditions survey and the opportunities and constraints analysis, and then the outreach process. We're at the point where we turn it over that information that's been provided through those outreach efforts to the consultants and their team of landscape architects to develop pre-conceptual plans that, again, previewing
that in August, we'll come back with those three conceptual plans and the comprehensive overview of the process and the information received and opportunity for you to comment and critique and provide input on that three conceptual plans. But, and what we have available, their initial step was to do a existing conditions space map. Identify what do we know to be out there, whether property dimensions, any other encumbrances like easements, rights of way. And so acknowledging that property is just under 3 acres, does have some right of way that extends and abuts to the property to the northeast and will lease future right of way to the southeast. It doesn't fully extend out to the roundabout. Actually, some private property that is part of the Ponderosa Inn property to the north that intervene between the roundabout right of way part itself, which is maybe an opportunity or one of those constraints depending on what how you view it. So they took that initial base survey and then went further and just continue to evaluate the site and develop a diagram identifying what those opportunities or constraints that are present on the property. Yeah, you know, my screen is blocking the legend on the diagram. So what we have here, again, labeled in green are what are those opportunities, noting the existing street cover, the relatively flat topography of the site, and ample developable area within the property boundaries. Other opportunities are being part of the overall Sisters Woodlands development, so the adjacent mixed use development options and residents that integrating into that existing neighborhood. And then you look at constraints being in the extent of the incomplete streets and right of way nearby, easements that are on the property that limit the overall developable footprint, and then of course proximity to the highway creates some potential safety implications for people accessing the site, traffic noise, and other factors like that. So what they're using this evaluation to influence how they lay out the sites and what the development may be. Also influencing the design are the public outreach that we conducted and providing that input. The first step in the outreach was to conduct 2 stakeholder interviews. Those were group interviews that included agency representatives. I see a few of these faces to these names in the room today with Jennifer, Councilor Ross, and Asa participating in that group interview. As a group setting, it provided the opportunity to have more of a group dialogue, some synergy, some back and forth. Having not attended that, I do welcome any other observations you have on that process. Pause there. Any takeaways from that process? What you care to share right now?
Great, I can bring over and dive in a little bit and what we were hoping to
Yeah, I think it will focus to. I mean, to me, a highlight was the discussion of we didn't want to repeat what the sister already had. So we were looking for a part to expand what we don't have. And of course, the pavilion was discussed for that spot. But at the same time, at the end, we also discussed that it's only 3 acres and that might not be the spot for something like that. And I believe that they were then are outreaching to the general public to ask them what we need or what we don't have, right? What do we want?
And I would add that it's an opportunity to acquaint them with the other park opportunities within the area. So for instance, the Gateway Park presents an opportunity for accessory parking and access, which might limit the number of parking spaces needed on site, allow it to big footprint. But one of the problems with that easement, people that runs, and I think that's probably super reasonable to be my guess. We don't not have those, so yeah. We have to jackhammer up the ice tonight. But I thought it was good, and I think that has good ideas, good comments to make. That's, yeah.
Yeah, so also present, thank you for those comments. We're city staff, representative of US Forest Service School District. And project coordinator with the Public Works Department, but also Brett is part of the Public Works crew that does the facilities management and maintenance. So it was really great to provide him that opportunity and get their perspectives on, we build a park. What's it like to actually continue to maintain it? It's brilliant. And then, as you noted, a second group interview was conducted with community leaders and interested parties. Included were representatives of the Sisters Woodland neighborhood residents, as well as the development team, C4C, Sisters Farmers Market, Scott was from Explorer Sisters was there, and the Sisters Business Association. I sure wish Will McDonald was able to join us. He's currently a Sisters High School student, and it was a chance to, and part of the civic leadership again thing. So it'd be great to get his input, but certainly can has throughout the process of it. So what these documents are, they're attached to the website, are summaries of the questions that were asked and the input that was provided. And then as a follow-up to that, late last month, conducted an open house over at the new Community Recreation Center. It's a great chance to get into the facility. Great to see what you have there and what resource it is for the community. Had a good turnout on a beautiful Thursday evening. Is see you there. And a chance to again to continue to solicit comment from the input from the broader general community. So we did have a brief presentation from staff and consultants, and then some exercises, putting on dots on what your priorities may be, what the amenities that you want, really just begin to have that conversation. I think one of the greater takeaways that I had loved to see was seeing the community members engaging together with the team. So it was again that group dialogue, that group think that provided great input. The consultant's still working on the summary of that. We'll update the web page and provide those resources there. Give you the opportunity of any takeaways that you have from the open house. I just may have been there.
I think you did a good job. The format was very casual. We can do some right. Yeah, no, I thought it went really well. It was a good turnout. It was casual environment, so like Jennifer was there as well, and we noticed that there's no care for people to sit down and get too relaxed. Everybody can read.
Like design.
I had one person that I talked to that was considering purchasing Woodlands unit right next to them. And they were really concerned about the parking and how that's going to impact them, whether they can buy it. So, but other than this.
Pickleball.
Huh?
Was it pickleball?
No, I commented. Yeah, I just said he had a great question.
That was actually discussed.
It's a good job.
Thanks. Well, and an interesting takeaway for me too was speaking with an existing resident of Sisters Woodlands who owns the lot right next to the park. And she chose that location. Right here. She chose that location because of the proximity to the park, the proximity to the commercial area just across the street. She really wanted to be part of the energy of that site and the neighborhood. So. So I think we touched on some of the takeaways and really not the point of tonight to dive into the comprehensive, aspect of what the takeaways were, but again, recognizing the opportunities that are over at Gateway Park as parking opportunities or just an extension of open space, and then an extension of downtown or a different opportunity to walk down or explore a different part of the town. Efforts and interest into integrating the site into the natural landscape, incorporating the natural or cultural history into the features that are on the site, including First Peoples or more current or modern histories. Active features, bouldering was a theme. We had a youngster that was adamant and vocal about his opportunities or interest in having those kind of features. So, still a lot of interest in providing that multi-use facility, 3-season, 4-season facilities to not only for the residents but tourists to bring in some activity, in particular in the shoulder seasons and winter. And we may have touched on that a full-size ice skating rink maybe isn't the right fit there, but there's still some energy towards is there still an opportunity for some type of ice skating, or what does the pavilion or building, if it's there, what does it look like? What are those features?
I think compromise is pickleball courts with ice to have to play pickleball on the skates. Rings and elementary hockey. Elementary pickleball.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yes. Don't say much. Nothing like all education.
Yeah. And a recognition that we have within our parks, we have existing facilities and looking for alternatives to what are the parks now. So, and then as our consultant put it, can we put some landmarks or some other features? He identified it as that Instagrammable feature or moment to get some recognition of what's at this facility to kind of, I want to go see that. I want to experience that. And then touching on some of the history, the idea of one example of a fire watch tower as a feature or inspired facility, what that looks like, and how it's integrated in the site. To be determined, but things like that to interact with the site that also integrate sisters, kids, and less. So, like I said, we put it in the hands of the consultants. We're in task number 4 to take that input and the knowns of the existing site and develop 3 conceptual plans that will give us some things to think about, chew on, and provide feedback. So. We'll have that completed sometime later this summer, all with the plan to see you in August to have a more comprehensive presentation and display those 3 conceptual plans and get your feedback on like 1, 2, or 3, or likely integrate out this feature and like that feature, bring it together as ultimately one preferred alternative that will bring to City Council for a final approval of the master plan. Thank you for your time. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the update. Yeah, you bet. Bye. Urban growth boundary. Okay.
Wanted to give you guys an update on what's been going on with your follow along. I'll show you the presentation that we gave to the planning commission and council. I think it's back in the middle of May to discuss this topic. So here where we are in the process. We've gone through the stuff that's all in gray, and we're kind of now in the preferred alternative phase, where we've had several discussions with our UGB steering committee and our planning commission or council on, now that we kind of know generally where the boundary is intended to go. What are the details, what are the specific, kind of honing in on certain areas, we didn't have that discussion. We have two concepts that were basically still on the line, optional to be, which I'll show you in a few minutes, but just to play the schedule out a little farther, once we do agree as a community kind of preferred alternative or council, more specifically, then we would have to go into a full this process. We're not, would be, I just have to go to our comprehensive plan and then to the county's comprehensive plan. And, if we have some agreement, the next round of meetings in August, there's still a chance that we can get that adopted, maybe by the year or within the year. But there's some variations on that schedule that we're still considering. And then after that, once that's been adopted and not appealed by anybody or accepted by the state, then we will start an area plan process for that. And it's a term commonly used around the state for basically an additional detail to do that. The area, the area that we're going to adopt is going to be more general. It's not going to really get to the specifics of where particular land use destinations are going to be. You know, the 100 some acres, 130 acres, or something like that, in residential, we don't need 50 acres of employment land, we don't need 19 acres of parkland, 15 acres for a school, we just don't know exactly where we can go yet. So the area plan will help to kind of identify where those things would generally go. That'll be kind of a guide for future developers to be able to, when they want to annex in, the community will have an idea, the developers will have an idea what the expectation is in terms of, not all the details, but generally what will be required. So we've had meetings with the steering committee and the planning commission. We've had 5 meetings now, and we'll be a 6th one. So we appreciate them kind of holding on to this process and seeing it to the end. I did mention kind of 2 different tracks potentially. We have an option A and an option B. I'm going to just skip those now. I think. So here's a concept A. You can see just for orientation, the kind of the dark gray area in the center is the existing city boundaries. You have those cross section there, one kind of go southwest, northeast is the airport plus sort of the runway protection zone. Crosshatched over, you have White Shoes Creek down kind of a lower right hand corner, and then Indian Ford Creek. Generally, it's right there in the potential wetlands associated with it, kind of going north south the Oregon Shore. This concept A includes about 250 acres of property. We can see very south of the airport, south of Barclay Drive, up to Barclay Courts to the east, and then down, including Barclay Meadows First Edition, which is that subdivision that's accessed off. I don't know if you've ever gone down Cascade, East Cascade, out in the hand, and catch the dirt road, and like that, we not where it's supposed to be here, or the trailer. That's that subdivision back down through there. And then it also includes some properties that are accessed off of Highway 26. Back at Village Street. This is just a concept that staff put together with the consultants based on public input that we received as a discussion, as a start of the discussion. And it's subject to refinement. The boundaries could change. For instance, we've had some big discussions regarding where would it be better. Start getting into something, even though we're not designating ranges, we're kind of dancing around the edges where would that employment plan makes most sense. Some folks think that off the Highway 126, where you'd have better access to the highway, would be more conducive to their employment plans. We have some folks that are thinking that the area just south of the airport and north of Barclay Drive, where there are many use restrictions for residential. It's not showing this concept, it would be kind of a little bit north of where this concept ends. Would be more appropriate for, say, some of that light industrial uses that we do, that can't put much else up in that area, like that would get stuff for it. Well, maybe there's a combination of both, because those apartment units consist of both light industrial as well as retail, things that may need more highway visibility. So those are some of the discussions that we still have yet to have. I think there's a lot of agreement on those purple kind of properties, sort of in the middle, they're called the inner northeast properties. It seems to be general agreement that those are should be included. And then we also have the concept that includes, does not include those items on 126, and includes a little bit less of alignments in that parkway and that first edition. And in lieu of that includes the Mackenzie Meadows village on C parcels that are shown north of the existing Mackenzie Meadows subdivision. The issue with that right now is that they have zoning, their zoning on the property in county is force two, which is a prioritization of lands that we incorporated as a lower priority plan for the ones to the east of town. That the owners have since submitted an application for planning for a rezone. And if they're successful with that rezone, that would make their priority one as well. The reason that we're keeping them on the line is that it has scored fairly well in some of our analyses in terms of, you know, really easy to develop those parcels because they're adjacent to street stubs, different utilities, easily extendable property. It's flat, that one property owners, it's basically the schools. But it's got some comments as well. It's got enforced around and there's a lot of concern from neighbors about that. Access could be an issue. So far, the council said, let's keep that on the line. We should have some decision on those properties from the county this summer. However, there's a strong chance that they will be able to find the decision either way and appeal and wait for it. I think one time they come resolve itself. And so, President, the last meeting said, let's just keep these two concepts under discussion until we have that meeting with the office, and we'll see if the direction is to pause the process with see how that works out, or to continue on without it. Some of the parks considerations that I wanted to bring to your attention. There's been some discussion about the opportunities that might be available to have open space opportunities along Lectures Creek, and potentially even expanding the boundary to the east and incorporating some of the demand for Drainage Creek, right there in the meadow, and go to the meadow. That might be opportunities for us to find either. So it's an active parkland out there, so more trail corridor and passive parkland. We need 19 acres. So where would that go? But incorporating some of that may require us to take more than the 250 acres that we have designated. Question is in the states, and we take them more than what we have identified as need. Possibly, it's not developing the way groups. So,
And I think we've had some of the group for discussion of whether that made sense. Protect that area by bringing in a urban reserve type land, so it's not, they're not developing on it. But they be incorporated as part of your whole White Creek and in Fort Creek. One of the things in a park perspective, it could be a nature park walking trail, like I said, if we're not developed with playgrounds or anything like that, it would be a place to bird watch or just go out and enjoy trails. So, and my argument has been, well, if we do that, then we have to develop on it. That's the state we need to go with the acre. And I sure like to see us personally consider that one vote or many, and not everyone on the planning commission subcommittee is necessarily on the same thing. But I think from a parks perspective, we don't have to fit it in my parks act. Not all parks, some places, some parks are really just places you would stroll and be along an area where you could listen to great to the frog and whatever else might happen to be there. And it's never going to be developed, but if it's not taken care of, you can become a bit of a issue. So.
Any questions, comments, thoughts?
Seems like they're working through their questions on their own right now. I mean, they have all the questions they are having, I'm sure. I know there's a lot of controversy. Oh. People, I think, part of it.
Just about the process. So when it's ultimately decided what growth boundary is, does the city then say at that time, these are going to be like, you know, this is going to be the park. And that's just projected onto the boundary, and then whoever owns that property then sells it or develops it. How does that actually work?
Yeah, so through the area plan process, that's when those rather than use of hopefully get by the thing areas. It doesn't mean that it can't be those boundaries can be slightly shifted a little bit with an actual development. But the idea is we need some experience with those area plan processes would be, you know, convening and technical advisory committee, you know, folks that have the technical expertise to help advise it. It's some of the property owners together and the owners, the community, it's kind of like, you know, we kind of help with that, develop that process. So that we can apply those designations and see how it makes the most sense. You know, we want to probably, you know, it's efficient based on where you see for what makes the most sense for application to one application versus probably having more logging power and something of that sort. So certainly not involved in property as we do, but the integrity of the language process should remain.
But we already something from the. That's in my part.
Why is
I have a question. The springs and current meadows, were those used to be forest definitely, or were those always done in something different?
Yeah. Well, they were some kind of zoning designation with the past, and I don't know which ones they were prior to that. They could have been forest.
I believe the one.
Forest.
Was that in 2005.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I think the thing that kind of is in the V-land. So we have two, I believe, we need the big movement, but Pembroke, they have been rich. You know, there's a lot of discussion about it. Now, yeah, I mean, this sort of thing, but this privately owned, and they do have a right to private landowner, should they choose. That, I'm not saying favor one or the other, the point is that the discussion you see in the paper and what's been going on isn't necessarily a full picture of what that land was, can be used for, could be used for, where you could go in there with a harvester and burn back. I don't think anybody wants that included if people want, but the point becomes, and it's clear cut that it would building the land. I mean, it's one of these sorts of catch-22 should have with this. And that's why I was paid, at least leave it on the table, and see what happens with the county. Am I thinking that some go to the field on the gift? Yeah. Am I thinking that I need to move forward on the gift? Yeah. But we share.
I think maybe started to answer my question, but my question was given that it seems likely it goes either way, like, I guess what's. Has been discussing what the will be doing. It's on everyone. Like I said, like if you're ready for more information, I guess. What happens at the top of that part?
I think it's.
I guess it's more about.
It seems to be a kind of another threshold decision making point about what we do.
I think. We'll figure the house now, because I think that. Should. we feel that that's an important piece to include. Topic. Then I think that we have to have an internal discussion on that, a strong discussion with the attorney, the other thing. In planners book, can bring that part of A and, you know, now you can even the process on the other part of B. See what happens with the land use decision, and if it's overruled and it stays up to, then we still have a fallback over there. I don't know, because we start in state detail, you know, this sort of thing.
One factor that we do need to consider is that if our process is not adopted by the 26th, then we can be subject to new state rule and have to update our population projections and have to redo our analyses.
Yeah, that's all things.
Yeah.
Right. You know, from a planning perspective, that's a great spot there. The things there, the schools there. You're not gonna be busted from the school district, perspective, you save that money. But the reality may be nothing, what you're gonna.
Well, thanks for the update. Yeah. Any other questions for me? Jump into this. Yeah, I even didn't even mention that part.
Yeah. I guess you got it. Not, you gotta go with that thought.
Yeah.
That's what we're.
It's
I know,
okay.
I know. Just wanted to confirm with you all that the council. Yes. Sister State Park. No, it's just that it's technically, I can't call it Gateway Park just yet because the funds to help pay for the improvement to the was the grant that was for transportation. And so once that's all closed, I think it's a common project.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, but they are finishing it up over there, and we'll start with public works coordinator, but there's going to be talk about signage and one of them kind of ready kind of ceremony for the summer. So once I don't, we'll hear about all that and we'll start putting signage out there and all the part. Get ready. Part.
Gateway Park, you say the transportation of that. Transportation.
Like maybe say.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And then,
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's great, and Chris, thanks to everyone's doing all that part of looking into it twice. It was a good idea, and make sure we were creative. I appreciate it. Don't end up the same day. We double checked it, checked it's going, we're set. Landscape plan for the roundabout.
What's that?
I said this should be good.
Yeah. So this is not the land, this is not the roundabout itself. Like, I thought about the construction of this. On the edges, the city's working with the designer to design a landscape out there with trees and shrubs and ground cover. Mulch and things of that nature, and working with adjacent property owners. Sister properties that you're operating to make sure that the gas stations and some of the other companies, make sure that landscaping with those owners are consulting, they're looking at the way it is. The idea is that this landscaping will be installed by the year. We're involved. So will be reviewed by our urban forestry board and our public works advisory board. Want to see it apart, and so I'll give you a heads up on that. Should be looking really nice. I think it's yeah.
Yeah, might get kind of much food out there, so that would be.
Are they still okay? My God.
They're, I mean, they have the running water. Yeah, but they'll get to watch. I go back where they are.
No, spring weather's not
One
helping.
night you go in the whole night, stick no.
Absolutely.
Right, is the actual roundabout itself just, there's gonna be no landscaping until there's smoke there.
And I think council's gotta take up what they're with you about the next steps. of
I'll just throw this out there. Somebody randomly mentioned at the school board meeting, the idea of borrowing the bell that used to be on that building temporarily until something's figured out. So with it,
Can you put a bolt with a real wide
just mention. Fair enough. But just wanted to mention, moving right, let's not discuss it. I just wanted to mention it to you.
I'm trying to everyone that Carol and I know about the bill, think about the bill, I've seen the bill.
All about the bell.
Well, the-
Update from Sisters Park and Rec. Oh, yes, sorry.
It's short. The public works on the past on that they are going to rebuild the shelter. Village Green Park because it's critical for children. And so they have to be more of a walk garden, so it's really good.
I've seen the link, it looks really nice, so good job. So we are in we've hired a contractor to do the build out of the park. We are doing a groundbreaking ceremony, aka the law, Saturday at 2 p.m. If you want to come join us, we're at the park. It'll be in the middle of our Kids Fest event, so there should be lots of fun little kiddos running around, hopefully not riding on construction equipment. And so we're really excited about that. The official construction kicks off next week, and it'll be a 2-month process. It should be under substantial completion by the end of September. There's a lot of, ground moving and everything that needs to occur. The base bid, what was approved by the board is walking path, the pickleball courts, the rehabbing of the basketball area kind of needs some love. We weren't able to include a cover because the cover was just so large and needed structural engineering, which was about half of our budget for the overall park to actually put a shade structure over the basketball court. Also includes a outdoor restroom, which I'm so excited about to be able to manage outdoor restrooms. And a picnic shelter, which is wonderful. Not only so this, but also the walking path all the way around. We are currently working on our foundation to try to get some additional funds so we can invest into field improvements, because if you play soccer out there, it's kind of taken a turn for the worse on those field conditions out there. And so we are 80% there to be able to fund those field improvements, which is really exciting. That way we can have a park and recreation quality field play for those fields that we desperately need. Actually, wasn't really appreciate that. So again, please come join us on Saturday. It's supposed to be really hot, so wear your sunscreen, and then we'll all provide updates as we go on. And summer starts here soon, so if I look a little crazy, that's why. Awesome. Oh, well done.
Yeah.
Go on, do you know, right?
Any questions? Thank you very much. And then,
Nothing really to add that I'm happy with, but I would say that the council was very receptive to the main ideas. I discussed a little bit about it. We are still holding on to the giddy up ability to the rest of it, but I haven't been able to get on past anybody, but one of your members of myself. But yeah, and I'm looking forward to, if you haven't known that it's what it looks like, it's right and everything else with it. But it doesn't get an attractive amenity to the town and making things part of it. But right now, it's just a wonderful.
yeah, it looks really cool, but any other business?
He said, I would like to acknowledge the cleanup out at Clemens Park. As a frequent user, the one parking area that's on the street, I mean, that's usually always packed. And then I saw a bunch of orange stickers on there the other day, it's probably 12 of them. And then with, it was a notice to get rid of the move or towed.
Right.
And then within a couple of weeks, it was cleared out to where there's maybe half a dozen cars. So I don't know if the city did that or if the sheriffs did that, but
Where that sounds like it would be something coming from the city in conjunction with the juice and share.
yeah, good job on that.
Yeah, that's more to do with that. One of the reasons why we spend money to have sheriff department do our police reports, as opposed to having someone pass through like we used to have.
Well, thank you. If there's something else.
Next meeting will be August 6th, I believe. The first one in August, so. And this.
I'll change the school board meeting. In that case, the meeting is adjourned at 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,